Imagine a room where the air is thin, not from the altitude, but from the sheer cost of breathing it. You are standing in the center of that room. You aren't the king, and you aren't the servant. You are the one who built the walls. You are the one who ensures the doors stay locked from the inside. In this world, the greatest currency isn't gold, data, or land. It is the sound of absolute, pressurized nothingness. This is the story of how you became a ghost in a machine of your own making, and how that machine eventually ground you into dust. You didn't start with a silver spoon. You started with a calculator and a chip on your shoulder. You looked at the world from the outside, a middle-class boy from a nondescript neighborhood with a frantic, clawing need to be elsewhere. You realized early on that the world isn't run by those who follow the rules, but by those who understand why the rules were written in the first place. You weren't interested in being liked. Likability is for the fragile. You were interested in being necessary. You watched the way people moved, the way they craved status, and the way they feared being common. You realized that if you could provide the stage where the elite could play without being judged, you would eventually own the theater itself. Your ambition wasn't a fire, it was a cold, steady vacuum, sucking in everything it could reach. Success didn't come from a brilliant invention or a grand oration. It came from the shadows of the classroom and the quiet, high-stakes corners of the trading floor. You realized that powerful men, the titans of industry, the heirs to thrones, the masters of the market, are often the loneliest people on earth. They have everything, yet they are starving for a specific kind of freedom, the freedom to exist without the burden of observation. You became a bridge. You weren't a genius of finance, though you spoke the language well enough to pass for one in the presence of the distracted. You were a genius of access. You found the people who had more money than God and the people who had more influence than the law, and you invited them to the same table. You realized that if you hold the guest list, you hold the power. You weren't selling a product. You were selling a sanctuary, an atmosphere where the word no ceased to exist and where the consequences of the world below never quite reached the penthouse. As the years passed, your name became a whisper, a secret handshake in the halls of the elite. You became the ultimate fixer. You didn't just solve problems, you ensured that the problems were never recorded in the first place. You learned that secrets are like debt. They accrue interest and the collector always has the final say. You were the most patient banker in the world, collecting favors like rare coins. You cultivated a persona of intellectual eccentricity. You funded scientists and philosophers, wrapping yourself in the cloak of big ideas to mask the transactional nature of your existence. You bought the largest house in the city, but it never felt like a home. It was a vault, a fortress, a grand stage of marble and gold, where every conversation was a negotiation and every guest was a data point. You moved through the highest circles of politics and royalty, not as a peer, but as an indispensable shadow who could make the impossible happen with a single phone call. Eventually, you realized that to be truly untouchable, you needed a kingdom beyond the reach of any map. You bought a patch of land surrounded by turquoise water, a place where the laws of the mainland felt like distant, irrelevant suggestions. From the outside, it looked like paradise. From the inside, it was a meticulously designed machine of observation. You understood the fundamental truth of the elite. Everyone wants to be seen, but no one wants to be watched. Except by you. You curated an environment of total, unbridled indulgence, where every whim was met with a nod and a smile. You weren't just a host, you were an architect of dependency. Every favor you did, every door you opened, every silent flight on your private jet was a brick in a wall that kept you safe. You believed that if you were the keeper of the gate, no one would ever dare to tear the wall down. The most terrifying thing about power is how quiet it becomes at the top. When you reach a certain level of influence, the world stops telling you no. And then it stops telling you the truth. You surround yourself with people who owe you everything, which means you surround yourself with mirrors that only reflect what you want to see. You lived in a world where consequences were things that happened to other people, to the small, the unconnected, the loud. If there was a fire, you bought the water. If there was a storm, you bought the sky. You truly believed that if you knew enough about enough people, you were immortal. Silence wasn't just a strategy, it was your oxygen. But silence is a heavy thing to carry over decades. It requires everyone involved to keep carrying it at the exact same time, with the exact same strength. If even one person falters, the weight shifts. And when the weight shifts in a room full of glass, the shattering is absolute. The downfall doesn't start with a bang, it starts with a dial tone. One morning you call a number that has always answered on the first ring, and it rings until it dies. Then another, then a third. You realize with a cold, sinking horror that the people you thought were your friends, the people you protected, the people you served, were actually just your clients. And they have realized that you are no longer an asset. You have become a liability. The very walls you built to keep the world out have now become the walls that keep you in. The private jets stay grounded on the tarmac. The island feels less like a kingdom and more like a tomb. You realize that the protection you cultivated was never about protecting you, it was about protecting the secrets you held. And once those secrets start to leak, the protectors become the cleaners. The system you served begins to purge you like an infection. The end is not a grand trial or a dramatic confrontation. It is a slow, cold realization of your own utter insignificance. You are moved from a mansion to a cell, from a world of infinite choices to a world of 4 concrete walls. The transition is jarring because the logic is the same. You are still in a room where you are not meant to be heard. The people who once flew on your planes, drank your wine, and toasted your health now claim they never knew your name. They scrub you from the photographs. They delete you from the ledgers. They treat your memory like a disease they are trying to recover from. You realize in the dark that you were never the architect. You were just a tool, a convenient piece of equipment used to facilitate the desires of the powerful. And tools are discarded the moment they lose their edge or become too loud to keep in the drawer. In those final, isolated hours, there is no one left to bargain with. There are no more doors to open, no more favors to call in. The silence you spent a lifetime perfecting has finally turned its face toward you. It is no longer the silence of a private meeting or a hidden deal. It is the final heavy silence of the forgotten. You won't be remembered for your mind, your wealth, or your influence. You will be remembered as a void, a dark spot in the history of the powerful. You are the name that people use to test the air before they speak, the cautionary tale whispered in the same halls you once walked with such confidence. You didn't leave a legacy. You left a stain. And as the lights go out, the only thing left is the cold, hard truth. You never owned the secrets. The secrets always owned you. You were never a man. You were just the space where the truth went to die, and now the truth is coming back to claim its territory.